still remember that Halloween night in Hollow Hollows. It was a small town where people loved Halloween. We enjoyed decorating our homes with scary stuff and having costume contests. But over time, things got darker. One Halloween, a mysterious carnival called the Midnight Macabre came to town. It had a creepy entrance with weird symbols, and it had eerie tents with scary things inside. It only opened during the darkest hours of Halloween, from midnight to dawn, and we were all drawn to its spookiness. A group of us teenagers decided to check out the Midnight Macabre. We thought it was all just for fun. But when we walked through the gates, it was like entering a nightmare. In one tent, there were haunted mirrors that made us look all twisted and spooky. We got scared and hurried to the next tent, which had a maze of mirrors. We felt lost in there, and our laughter turned into crazy screams. Some of us never came out, and others were never the same again. We pushed on, wanting to get out of this madness. The last tent had a fortune teller who told us really scary things about our future. It was chilling. Only one of us managed to escape the Midnight Macabre, but she was never the same. She came back to our town and tried to warn everyone about the creepy carnival, but it was too late. The carnival had disappeared, leaving only the scary gate behind. From then on, our town was always dark and foggy on Halloween. It felt like a ghost town, and our houses seemed haunted. The story of the Midnight Macabre lived on, and so did the nightmares of those who had gone inside. Halloween in Hollow Hollows was never fun again. It changed from a happy holiday into a scary memory of the carnival that had haunted our town, and every Halloween night, the gate of the Midnight Macabre would creak open, inviting new people to experience the terror inside. So, be careful if you ever come to a town called Hollow Hollows and see a creepy carnival called the Midnight Macabre. Once you go in, there's no going back, and Halloween might haunt you forever.
It was Halloween night in the quiet town of Willowville. The full moon made everything look spooky, and kids in costumes roamed the streets, going door to door for candy. But there was one house that everyone avoided, the creepy Hollow House. At the end of Willow Street, Hollow House was a really old, falling apart mansion. Its windows were broken, the paint was peeling, and the garden was a mess. No one had lived there for as long as anyone could remember, and it gave everyone the creeps. As it got darker, a group of teenagers dared each other to spend the night in Hollow House. They thought it was just a spooky old house, perfect for a Halloween scare. With flashlights in hand, they carefully pushed open the creaky front door. Inside was even scarier than they thought. Cobwebs covered the walls, and the chandelier hung crooked, casting weird shadows. It was freezing, and the air felt thick and hard to breathe. They went further into the house, their footsteps sounding loud in the quiet. As they went up the creaky stairs, strange things started to happen. Paintings on the walls seemed to move, and voices whispered spooky stories from the past. The house felt heavy, like something was pressing down on them. One by one, the teenagers disappeared. Shadows closed in on them, and their screams echoed through the house, but they were gone. The ones left behind looked for their friends, but the house seemed to change, and they couldn't find their way out. In their frantic search, they stumbled into a room with a mirror, but it was no regular mirror. It showed them twisted, scary faces and whispered creepy things. It seemed to want to pull them into the mirror. Finally, only one teenager made it out of Hollow House. He was pale and looked terrified. He never talked about what he saw that night, and he was never the same. Hollow House had taken its victims, and Willowville would never be the same. Even now, Hollow House stands as a reminder of terror, a place where the living and the dead might mix, especially on Halloween night. No one goes near it, and it's a scary reminder that some houses have secrets and Halloween can be really, really spooky. Halloween had always been a night of treats and excitement in the small town of Elmridge. Children ran from house to house, their bags getting heavier with candy and joy. But in a quiet house at the end of Rose Street, an elderly woman named Mrs. Thornfield was known for her sinister reputation, and her candy was rumored to be cursed. Mrs. Thornfield's house was shrouded in overgrown ivy, and her windows were always dark, as if hiding something dreadful inside. Locals whispered that she was a witch who cast spells on the candy she gave out on Halloween. Despite the warnings, a group of daring teenagers decided to put the rumors to the test. They approached Mrs. Thornfield's front door, her garden filled with twisted, thorny plants. She opened the door just a crack and peered out with her piercing eyes, her smile unnerving. Ignoring their unease, the teens eagerly accepted the candy she offered. Each piece was strangely shaped and had an unusual, metallic taste. They thanked Mrs. Thornfield and quickly left, thinking it was all just a spooky tale. As the night went on, a sense of unease settled over them. Their laughter turned to nervous whispers, and the candy weighed heavily in their bags. They decided to taste the strange sweets, thinking they might be fun in a creepy way. As they bit into the candy, a chilling sensation swept over them. Their bodies grew cold, and their surroundings twisted into a nightmarish realm. They were trapped in a dark, eerie forest, where sinister figures lurked in the shadows. The trees seemed to whisper secrets, and the ground beneath their feet felt like quicksand. The teens tried to find their way back home, but they were lost in the cursed candy spell. Time seemed to stand still, and their laughter turned into desperate cries for help. The candy had trapped them in a world of fear and darkness. Back in Elmridge, hours turned into days, and the teens were never seen again. Their parents searched desperately, but there was no trace of them. The town's residents came to realize the truth about Mrs. Thornfield's candy, and they shuddered at the thought of her malevolent spells. To this day, Mrs. Thornfield's house remains untouched, and no one dares to approach it on Halloween night. Elmridge has a haunting reminder of the cursed candy, and the town's Halloween traditions have forever changed. The legend of the wicked candy serves as a chilling warning that not all treats on Halloween are what they seem, and the night can hold unexpected horrors. Now, Elmridge residents share their stories about the cursed candy, warning new generations to avoid Mrs. Thornfield's house. Halloween in the town has become a night of cautious celebration, and every year, the legend of the wicked candy is shared as a cautionary tale. It serves as a chilling reminder that Halloween isn't always just about fun and games, and sometimes there are darker forces at play, even in the sweetest treats.